Hello, interwebs. It's Al, the dog listener. Ho, ho, ho. Happy, happy, happy holidays to all of y'all. You'll see I'm wearing my antlers again. I'm going to wear them as much as possible this holiday season because if not now, when? One of the things I wanted to do on my channel was to tell some stories of some individual dogs that I've known over the year that have really touched me. So I'm going to tell the story of Shadow. Now, at the time that this dog came into my life, I had 4 Shadows. 4! Blonde Shadow was, I don't know, maybe 12, 13. And I had been walking him for his mom and dad for a year or so, 120 pounds in his prime, but by the time I got to him, maybe 80, 90 pounds. Tall guy, super sweet, lovely dog. His parents had some very fancy jobs, and he, unfortunately, Blonde Shadow contracted lymphoma, and his mom was pregnant, and she loved her dog. She told me, I love him so much, I really want my baby to meet him. So they gave him chemotherapy to stave off the lymphoma, and she gave birth to her baby. Shadow's response to the chemotherapy was to not feel well, as so many of us. I'm a cancer survivor myself. Chemotherapy will just fuck you up royally. Makes you sick, makes your stomach feel bad. The father was upset because the dog was having diarrhea outside and stepping in it and coming inside with that on his feet, and he didn't want the chemicals from the chemotherapy walking into the house around his newborn son. Anyway, they decided they didn't want to pay me anymore. They didn't want him walked anymore. They couldn't be bothered, but I came anyway. So at night, after I finished my walks and my trainings, I would come by because he lived in my neighborhood and take him out. And it was a few days since I had last seen him, and I swing by his house and I go in. To my surprise, some of the extended family was there, and they were all kind of huddled around the dog bed. And I come walking in, obviously in a state of concern, because what are they doing huddled around the dog bed? And I said, what's going on? And they said, oh, well, he hasn't gotten up or eaten in a couple of days. All I remember is shoving them out of the way, scooping him up, putting him over my shoulder, and running him down to the car. I put him in the back of my truck, ran to the Chinese food restaurant, and I got some white rice, and I went ahead and got some cottage cheese, and he immediately ate. And so I took him home. I didn't even talk to the people. I took him back to my house. I set him up in the office in my old place in San Francisco, and the office had a door to the backyard, to the little deck that went into the backyard. And I set up a little sleeping place next to him, and I set him up there in case he needed to go to the bathroom. I made him a huge ass pot of chicken soup that was appropriate for dogs, no salt and all that stuff that you shouldn't put in anyway. And I started to nurse him back to health. Of course, at this time, I was in touch with the owner to let her know, hey, I'm going to keep him for a while, get him back on his feet. She was all about it. I had him for a week. Now, before the baby was born, it's my baby, oh God, my dog, I love him so much, I love him. She came to visit him one time. I lived 6 minutes from her one time. And she came in through the bottom door. He was up on the second level by the deck, and she came in through the basement on the bottom door to see him, came up the stairs, and she visited him for a while. She left. A couple days had passed. He continued to get stronger and stronger and stronger. He still had diarrhea, no problem, okay? No big deal. Go out in the yard, clean it up. And then one day he got up, and he went to the door where he saw her, and he just sat there and he waited, and he kept looking at me. I said, you want to go home? And he wouldn't come back in my house. He just kept standing by the door. So I called her up, and I said, I want to bring him home. I want to bring him home. He wants to come home. And she said, okay, I'll talk to my husband. So I get a call back from her. She said, okay, he can come for a visit. I said, okay. So I brought him home, and the husband is there with this snippy little look on his face. I'll keep my thoughts to myself about that. And he says to me, well, does he not have diarrhea anymore? And I said, no, he still does. Well, how did he not walk in it in your house? And I'm like, he had diarrhea. He walked around and he walked back in their house. And this was the first time I looked in their backyard and realized that these people had so much fancy fucking lawn furniture and garden furniture and shit that literally, and I'm not shitting y'all, not shitting you, this dog had enough space to walk out in the yard, take his shit. There wasn't room for him to get away from his own shit. So even if he had taken a healthy shit, he still would have fucking stepped in it. There was no place for him to move, especially a rickety older dog with arthritis that was having trouble moving. I went out in the backyard and I stacked all their fancy ass lawn furniture in the corner. I go, there, I fixed it for you. And he grumbled and and then fucked off to some other room. The dog was so happy. Shadow was so happy to be home. All he could do was run into the nursery to see the baby, to show me, that's my baby, it's my baby. And he like sniffed all around the crib, and the baby was sleeping, and he laid down. Y'all, he died there. He went to sleep guarding that baby, and that night he died in his sleep. He wanted to get home to do his final job of taking care of that baby just one more time. If you think your dog doesn't know, doesn't remember, doesn't have some higher purpose, you're wrong. It's been at least 20 plus years since Shadow's been on this plane. And every time I talk about him, this is what happens. When you look in their eyes, see the depth, see the character, see who they are. It's not an object, it's another soul. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Hug your dog, hold them close, tell them how much you love them and how much you appreciate them. Show your gratitude. This is a Dog Listener. I'll see you soon.